So at this point we've finished detailing the centipede. I'm going to add some detail to the skin of the figure itself. I'm going to reveal all. I'm going to go to the layers menu, and then I'm going to turn off record on this layer here. And there we go, that's my pose layer there. I'm not going to need to restore this guy to his neutral position again, so I'm happy with the pose that we're in. So I'm actually just going to bake all the layers, and I'll do that by clicking Bake All. Now under the Geometry menu I can divide one more time, and then I can actually add a new layer. I'll rename this layer Skin Detail. And this layer I'm going to use to actually detail the flesh, to add some wrinkles and just a little bit of extra noise to the surface, so when we render this guy we'll be able to catch some nice specular highlights and details across the range of his skin. Now I'm going to go up to my subtool menu, and I'm just going to isolate just the body because I really don't need to see the rest of the figure. And I just want to add a bit of detail on here, a little bit of noise in the form of some wrinkles and pores. Select the freehand stroke, and from the alpha list we'll select alpha 58, which gives me a nice kind of crosshatch skin texture. If I drag the brush here, you can see the effect this gives. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just want to give an overall coating of texture just to take away the perfectly smooth surface. So I want to take care that the wrinkles are flowing in a reasonable direction. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time dealing with them because the idea is just to add that tiny little bit of extra visual interest. Mainly you'll be seeing it in the specular highlights along the surface. So here, for example, I'll radiate these wrinkles out from the armpit here, because it's a natural point that you get some radiating wrinkles coming from. It's a central arc of rotation there. Turning down my draw size here. I'm just making circular patterns with the brush. Now if I reveal all, again, just by Control-Shift clicking on the background to show the parts that are hidden, I can access my layer control here again. I'll just turn off record mode, and then I can dial back the intensity of the layer. See if I bring that back to 0.4, 0.7. If I go all the way up to 1, that's 100%. And I can also reverse it. I can go down to the negative range as well. That'll turn everything that was a recess into a raised area and vice versa. I'm going to leave this at 0.7. Let's see how that looks. 0.7 looks good compared to 100%. Oops, that's a bit much. Let's go back to 1, not 5. There we go. The difference between 1 and 0.7. Just a little bit more subtle at 0.7, so I'll leave it there. So we've got some skin texture on here now. We're ready to go ahead and paint some color because we want to have some color aspects to the skin for when we take it outside to paint it up in Photoshop. We want to have a render that carries the skin texture with it. So we're going to use poly paint on the body, the teeth, and we'll also use it on the centipede. So let's take a look at how to do that now. I'm going to create a new layer. We'll call this poly paint. Call it poly paint base since I'm likely to use a few different layers to mix the different color passes. Make sure the body is the only thing turned on here. And I'm going to create a base color. So I'll go to the color palette. I'll go to the Sys palette here. And I want to give him a nice sickly base color. Kind of greenish blue. Turn the alpha off. Make sure Z-add is turned off and RGB is turned on. That's a little too dark. I'm going to raise that. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to switch to a spray stroke. Under the spray stroke controls, I'm going to turn color down to 0. And I'll switch to alpha 7. Now I'm going to spray some of this color down. The idea here is just to give an overall covering of of a base color or a base hue to the figure. And then we'll break up the other passes into different layers. I think for the purpose of a base layer, this is actually going to be pretty good. I'm going to click New Layer here. We'll rename it. We'll call it Spatters. Now in this layer, I'm going to add more spattering like I've done on the layer you see here with the blue dots. I might actually just add a few more blue through here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do something else. I'm going to go to Preferences, Custom UI, and click Enable Customize. I'm going to go to the Color menu, and now Control, Alt, click and drag the System Palette button down here. Now go to Preferences, turn off Enable Customize, and press Control-Shift-I, and that stores that configuration. This allows me to grab the System Palette much easier. So let's go ahead and pick a very sickly looking yellow. I'm going to switch back to this Alpha 7, the clustered dots, turn up my RGB intensity. I'm just spraying this through, mainly on the high points of the skeleton. The underside of the palms. A lot of times when it comes to painting, I do just kind of play with the color until something starts to work for me. If I ever go in with a real set plan, this color, then this color, then this color, it always ends up changing. I will go in with an idea of where I'm trying to get with the color, and then I'll keep mixing it on the figure until that color starts to appear, until it starts to work. Going in with another pass of kind of a peachy skin color. When we're working with these layers, it's important to actually note that this layer, the poly paint, is on top of this layer. I could reverse this. I could take this layer and move it down, and what would happen then is those dots would appear above it. Let me show you what I mean. If I move this up, see how those dots now appear above the other layer? Move this one down. See how that changes now. I need to turn my visibility back on that layer. There you go. You can see the effect that has. So it's just important to be aware of that as you start breaking things up into poly paint layers, that it does, there is an order to the layers in the layer menu, and it will determine what's displayed and what's hidden, what's obscured by what's on the layer above it. Okay, I'm going to go to the system palette now. I'm going to grab a purple, darken and desaturate it a little bit, and I'm going to bring this into the recesses of the eye area. I'm just going to bring this into the recesses across the board, across the figure, just any hollowed out areas. I want to bring some of this purple in. I'm going for kind of a deadened flesh look. I'm going to turn on my other subtools here just to keep getting a feel for the character. I will turn off the centipede for right now because I want to be able to access the hand. Going back in with a single dot alpha this time, raising my intensity. Spraying a bit of that through there. If you want a sample color directly off the model, just click and drag from that color swatch, and you can grab color right from there. Here I'm just spraying a little bit of that base back on top of some of the purple. I want to mute a little more. I want to erase. If you hold down Alt and then click and drag, it'll actually erase polypaint. So if I were to change this, let's say to a freehand stroke, with no alpha, this will be really apparent. You can see that's me. That's me erasing right there. And I'm changing to the drag rectangle stroke, alpha 22, and I'm going to go back in with kind of a purpley veining. And I'm going to do a pass over the whole figure of just these squiggly veins. Alright, now we'll move over to the centipede. Give a go at sculpting this guy, or painting on this guy. I'm going to go to the system palette and I'll select sort of an orangish hue. Go to the geometry menu. Make sure that I'm divided up as high as I can go. And I'll go to color, fill object. Going back to the system palette now, I'll select something more in a brown range. Use my spray brush. And I'm just going to isolate the body so I can just spray this onto the body, not actually get any of the legs. Make sure I'm on RGB. I'm going to reveal all again. Go to transform, use posable symmetry. Posable symmetry is not going to work this high up the subdivision levels, so that's fine. I was hoping to be able to use that to help expedite the process of making sort of a symmetrical paint scheme here, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to turn off that symmetry. Paint a little bit of dark into each of these segments. I'm going to paint a lighter streak down the center high point here.